Okay, so we're going to use law of sines and cosines in this video. And so I have this triangle ABC, and I know the measure of angle A, and I know the measure of angle C, and I know the measure of side A. So if I have a side in its opposite angle, then that points me to law of sines. So I'm going to say the sine of 53 degrees divided by 12 is going to be equal to the sine of 66 degrees divided by the measure of C. Okay, and so doing the algebra 1 here, we're going to cross multiply and then simplify. I'm going to get C times sine of 53, C sine 53 equals 12 sine 66. Then I'll divide by sine of 53. And then I'm going to go to my calculator and get the length of C. So 12 times sine of 66, close parentheses, divide by sine of 53. That's going to give me the length of side C, which I should expect to be bigger than side A, since the angle is bigger. Okay, so I can put the answer in there, 13.727 feet. And of course, then I'm going to get angle B and then side B. So angle B is just going to be subtraction, right? We got 53 and 66, so that's 9 and 11, 119. Is that right? 110 plus 9, 119. So 180 minus 119 is 61 degrees. Okay, and so now I can do sine of 61 over B equals sine of 53 over 12. Do the same algebra that I did before, so it's going to turn out to be 12 sine of 61 divided by sine of 53. 12 sine 61, oops, 1, close parentheses, divide by sine 53, and I get 13.1417 or 13.142. So you can see we use law of sines twice there to get length, right? Obviously, we're not using Pythagorean theorem since it's not a right triangle. And so that's just a classic example of using law of sines. So next we'll look at law of cosines. Law of cosines can be used in two different ways. We did this in class. Maybe I know three sides, like so. And I can use law of cosines. And I'm just going to randomly pick which angle. So we did A in class, let's do C here. So I don't know the angle, so I know I'm going to have to be taking the cosine of C, which means since I don't know what C is, eventually I'm going to have to do the inverse cosine. Okay, so the adjacent sides are the ones that go into the equation on the right, and the opposite side is the one that stands alone. Okay, and so in my equation I'm going to get 21 squared equals 20 squared plus 18 squared minus 2 times 20 times 18 cosine of C. Okay, and let's just do a little bit of algebra here. We're going to do 21 squared minus 20 squared minus 18 squared equals negative 20 and 18 is 360. Times 2 is 720, okay? 720 cosine C, okay? And so then I'm going to divide both sides by negative 720. So that means eventually on my calculator I'm going to be doing the inverse cosine And I could do this. I tend to do the calculation and then do inverse cosine of the answer, but it really doesn't matter. 21 squared minus 20 squared minus 18 squared all over negative 720. Okay, so here we go. So 21 squared minus 20 squared minus 18 squared. I'm going to do that. I'm going to divide by negative 720. Didn't get my 720. Okay. And take the inverse cosine of that, second cosine of the answer. 66,855. Okay, so I kind of minimized that work, and instead of doing law of sines, which I just did, I'm going to do law of cosines again. Okay, really, really doesn't matter. I think law of sines is probably easier, but I just want you to see cosines again. But I'm going to go through it a little bit more quickly this time. So let's say we're going to get A, and once we get angle A, then we're just going to be able to use subtraction to get angle B. So I'm going to have 18 squared equals 20 squared plus 21 squared, right, minus 2 times 20 times 21 times the cosine of angle A. Okay, so I'm going to subtract and divide. I'm going to do that all in one step this time. 18 squared minus 20 squared minus 21 squared all over negative 2 times 20 times 21. Okay, and that's going to equal the cosine of A, and so I'm going to take the inverse cosine of that quantity, and that will give me A. Okay, so let's bring up the calculator. Okay, again, I tend to do these things in steps, okay, and so what I'm going to do is do 18 squared minus 20 squared minus 21 squared, making sure each step makes sense. I should expect something negative. I'm going to divide that by, I'm just going to put parentheses. I don't really need the parentheses, but you know what, I'm just going to, no, actually I do need them because I want to divide by the entire quantity, so I do need parentheses here, excuse me. Negative 2 times 20 times 21. I want to look at my screen on my calculator before I hit enter. 20, 21, that's correct. Negative 2, got it, good. Ready to go. Boom, there it is. That's a reasonable number. It's less than 1. Okay, and so now I'm going to just say, give me the inverse cosine of that number, and bingo, I've got angle A. Should expect it to be less, right? And so that seems to make sense to me. Okay, so the one mistake I made here is I never saved my first answer. Okay, I still have the last one. I still have the 55. Let me hit store and put that was A. So I'm going to put that in A. Okay, and you know what? I'm just going to redo the other one real quick. 21 squared minus 20 squared minus 18 squared, enter, divide by negative 720, enter, and take the cosine of that number. And there, I got it right back. Really, it wasn't that hard. I'd rather not have to do it that way. Now that was angle C, so I'm going to store that in C. Okay, and then I'm going to add, I got A and C, right? So I'm going to take A, I'm going to add C, and I'm going to take 180 and subtract that number, and there's B. Okay, so 61,131. 61.131 degrees, and C was 52,013, and A was 66.855. Okay, now I really want to be careful because what I'm seeing here is my rounding doesn't add up just exactly correctly. And so I'd like that to happen, right? In other words, I've got a 1, and I've got a 3, and that makes 4, and then I've got a 5, that makes 9, Okay, and so really one of these should be rounded up a little further, and so I don't know. I guess it's a guessing game. It's really not the most important thing, but it would be good if those numbers added up. And I think the best one would probably be to make this 52.014. There's going to be people who are going to argue with you about that, but I do like, as a rule, to have my angles in a triangle add up to 180 degrees. And so that's why I would do that, even though that rounding isn't quite the way you would do it normally. So that's law of sines and law of cosines.